Good morning and a blessed Sunday to everyone. I am Rabbi Jonathan Freirish and I welcome you to Crossroads. Crossroads is a production of the Network of Religious Communities and Town Square Media. And what is the Network of Religious Communities? Well, it is an organization of denominations, congregations, and religious organizations located in and serving Western New York. We are Baha'i, Buddhist, every type of Christian you can imagine, for the most part, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and Unitarian, and together we celebrate the wonderful religious diversity of Western New York. Today, I said already, I am Rabbi Jonathan Freirish, and I am from Temple Beth Zion here in Western New York, both in downtown Buffalo and in Amherst, and I am joined by one of my esteemed colleagues in the region. Reverend Mark Blue is the pastor of Second Baptist Church in Lackawanna. He is president of the Buffalo branch of the NAACP. He is a fellow member of the Racial Equity Roundtable, and we are working on a number of things that we're going to talk about around Martin Luther King weekend this year and the National Day of Racial Healing. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about, but really we're going to start off, as we usually do. First, welcome Reverend Blue.
Thank you. It's good to be on your show, Reverend Freirish, Rabbi Freirish.
That's okay. Jonathan is fine. And Reverend Blue and I have danced around. I have had the pleasure of working more actually with your wife, Angela, who is also an amazing person who refuses to come on my show because she's too busy. But somehow or another, you are less busy, despite both of us having funerals this weekend.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, here we are on an early Sunday morning, and before both of us have busy days. And you have this amazing biography of service to our military, of really being a person of acquiring knowledge and expertise in the world. What I'd like to know is there something in your early life that called you to service?
Well, one of the things that I really loved about what I do is service. Growing up, I've been around that all my life. Even from a youth, I knew what I was going to do. Being in the military, it just served as a building blocks for me. But even as a youth, growing up in church, I was as a youth leading Bible studies and teaching some of the adults and working with youth groups in our church and in our association. I was one of the young presidents of the youth group of the association and of the conventions that we participated in.
In the Baptist church?
In the Baptist church.
So you are a Buffalonian Baptist from birth?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, the church that I pastor now, Second Baptist Church, was a church I was born in, but I didn't stay there. My mother and my father were brought up there. All my brothers and sisters, we were brought up at Second Baptist Church. When my father passed away in 1968,
you were only 5.
I was only 5.
Sorry.
Yes, and it was 5 of us total as far as brothers and sisters, and we lived in Buffalo at the time. And for all that time, we couldn't go back to Lackawanna because my mother couldn't drive, and just transportation was the issue there. But in 2001, the former pastor, he passed away, and they were in a pastoral search. So I'm back where I started from, literally. From a baby back to pastor in Second Baptist Church in Lackawanna.
So do you have anybody at the church who remembers you as a child still?
Well, they remember my family. I have an aunt that's still there. And a lot of the people, we would go back there frequently to visit and have service there. But it wasn't in this perspective here, in this way. But the communities, we still have cousins out there that were part of the church. And as a matter of fact, my first cousin, he pastors First Baptist Church. I pastor Second Baptist Church. Pastor Woods, he pastors First Baptist. And we all came from Second Baptist.
Wow.
First Baptist is an offshoot of Second Baptist. sometimes churches split. So there was First Baptist, and then people got mad, and they want to start a church, so we started Second Baptist.
Well, it's okay. Jews are exactly the same. There's an old story about the Jewish Robinson Crusoe who, is alone on an island
Right.
for years and years and years, and he comes and he introduces people to show. When he's finally rescued, he shows people around the island, and he says, here's the place where I first gathered water. Here's the place where I first, was able to harvest some things that I planted. Here's my first pineapple grove. Here's the first synagogue that I built, and here's the big house that I was able to build, and here's the second synagogue. And they say, first synagogue, second synagogue, what are you talking about? Oh, that first one, I won't walk in there anymore. So yes, we are like that. So here you are, you're this kid who's teaching Bible in a family of people who love church.
Yes.
And so where did your teaching move from inside the church to service outside the church? Because that's a big component of who you are.
It's a very big component, and it just grew from the inside, from my heart, and it was something that the Lord led me to do. And from various areas of life, I found myself, and just walking into a place, I find myself being one that starts to lead the place. And it's not a prideful thing, but the Lord just had favor. And sometimes God just has favor. He gives you that. He gives others information about you that will believe you and follow your leadership, and you find that things are going on very well. I didn't start off this way. I didn't start off to be the head of this or the lead of that. Even in Lackawanna, I was the first African American Chamber of Commerce president.
Wow.
So there were many areas in Lackawanna that we were able to continue to grow in. They knew my family. From that, then they got to know me, and I'm nothing like some of my relatives, but we've grown to be very encouraging and very integral part of the community. Second Baptist has always been a part of the community in doing job searches and creation. We've partnered with the Department of Labor.
Wow.
So every Friday, we have 2 counselors from the Department of Labor at our church to help people find jobs.
Well, I imagine Angela provides you some connection with that.
Actually, no.
No?
No, that was part of the Clergy Coalition of Western New York, which
for those of you who don't know, I'm making fun here. Angela Blue is an organizer for the AFL-CIO. She's a labor leader in town.
Yes, she is.
But here, you've got the city, the Department of Labor from the city of Lackawanna coming.
No, from the state.
From the state of New York, coming into your church and helping people get jobs.
Absolutely.
See, this is what's amazing. What I think is, I think the public image of people of faith is nothing like the reality of people of faith.
True. That's very true.
Because here what you're saying is your church, Second Baptist, and no doubt First Baptist as well, these 2 churches that you and your family have been affiliated with for the entirety of your life, are both not just places where the community comes together for worship and for fellowship and for helping each other celebrate and helping each other in difficult times, but actually for changing the fabric of the community day to day.
Absolutely. One of the things that we have to do is that we have to look at the community. We have to be an integral part in the community. Now, everybody's not going to attend church. It's not going to happen. We wish it would. But
if wishes were fishes, our pews would be full.
Absolutely. But we realize that if we can't service the community, then we're not doing any good as a church. Because when you look at the life of Jesus and all the other leaders, they were in the community.
That's
Jesus
right.
was in the community, and he fed people. Now, if they were hungry, he fed them. Then he taught them. Then he preached to them. So if a person is hungry, they're not going to hear a word I'm saying if we don't feed them.
Well, it's true. And this is the understanding that social welfare, that the welfare of our communities comes first, is one that a lot of people don't get. Just if you're just getting on with us, this is you're hearing the voice of Reverend Mark Blue of Second Baptist Church in Lackawanna, and Jonathan Freirish. I'm Rabbi at Temple Beth Zion, and we are talking about how important it is for our communities of faith, communities of worship, communities that are brought together by common identity. And it doesn't matter whether it's a synagogue or a church or a temple or, a commune. there is a mission, a fabric of change. And you talked about Jesus as feeding people first.
Yes.
Because after all, hungry people aren't interested in listening.
They won't listen at all. But when we look at the overall plight of our communities, if we're not there to help them, then we're hurting them. So we have to be very cognizant of the things that we're doing, because when you look at all of religion, it's one in which is helping others. And if we can't help others, we're not doing any good to ourselves.
Well, and the attitude of being a helper, of being an assistant, is also teachable.
Yes, it is.
And part of I think what both of our disciplines, and we can look at Judaism and Christianity as disciplines,
Yes.
not just for the leaders but for the participants, is to transform our attitudes, understanding that building a good habit is harder than succumbing to a bad habit.
Absolutely right.
And that habitual behaviors, though, are self-reproducing, self-replicating. We can, in fact, turn a community person by person through the saying, hey, wait a second, join me in doing this thing that feels uncomfortable right now. But if you participate in helping your neighbor, if you participate in building a home for them, if you participate in helping feed them, if you participate in helping get them a job, then that changes us from the inside out. Just like you were saying, your service started from the inside out, started with a teaching and led to a doing.
When we look at all of that, and we look at the disparities that are in our communities, they affect us in a multiplicity of ways. Now, regardless of our ethnicity, we have to be cognizant of, if I'm hurting, you're going to hurt too. If
that is for
you're
sure.
prospering, we should be able to prosper together. Lackawanna is a very diverse community. We have Hispanics, we have Yemenite community, Muslim population there.
I've been to the Yemenite mosque in Lackawanna. Pretty
Yes.
amazing how many people. It's huge.
It's huge. We have plenty of schools. We have several churches. I'll just name First and Second Baptist, but you have Mount Olive Baptist, you have Ebenezer, you have Bethel. You have a multiplicity of churches.
And not even
in
talking
Lackawanna.
about the huge Catholic community.
Absolutely. And we work with them as well. We are a part of a group in Lackawanna, the Men in Action. Not men missing, but men in action. This group has come together to really galvanize the first ward of Lackawanna, to bring back a better sense of community where we're seeing men. Now, one of the things that happens, excuse me, one of the things that happens is that we see a lot of women doing the work, but these are men who grew up in Lackawanna, who've come back to Lackawanna, who have a heart for Lackawanna, to make sure that Lackawanna now comes back to a richness that it once had before.
Isn't it amazing what a great investment back in the community from men? And you're talking about something that's key. Often we see that women's groups are much more concerned with social welfare.
Right.
And historically in the Jewish community, in fact, the refugee resettlement movement for Jewish people that started in the late 1800s and early 1900s was run mostly by sisterhoods at synagogues.
Right.
Until it was centralized. But similarly, we expect women to be carers for the community, basically asking women to do both a job, a caring for the household job, and then taking care of other people's job, like triple timing them. And what you're saying is here you've got a group of men in action who say it's our job too.
It's our job too. We realize that a lot of single parent households, and some of them, the men are not in there. But this group has come together to let people know that men care, and that's big in the community, especially when you have a woman trying to raise a boy, a young man.
Right.
We don't think the same, and,
well,
and it's very encouraging to have another male help and assist in that area, because there's certain limitations that women have when it comes to raising young men.
There's no doubt, because, well, there is different in culture and difference in upbringing, and difference in social pressures.
Absolutely.
And so if you're just joining us, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Freirish from Temple Beth Zion. I'm here speaking with Reverend Mark Blue from the Second Baptist Church. And now I knew how to say it. It's Lackawanna, not...
Lackawanna or Little LA.
All right. So in Lackawanna, so we we have been joined together. Mark and I worked together on the Racial Equity Roundtable. And one of the things that you talked about differences in outcomes. You talked about how neighborhood by neighborhood, we can put zip code by zip code. We can look and see if we were to just divide up Western New York by life expectancy. We could then put an overlay on the map of Western New York by life expectancy, and then take that off and look at diversity of neighborhood, and we would see that the lower life expectancy neighborhoods would be an immediate overlap with the more diverse neighborhoods. Basically, if you've got more African Americans and more minorities in a neighborhood, that's going to be a neighborhood with lower life expectancy.
Absolutely. When you look at the 14211, 14215, 14208, and some of those neighborhoods there, even 14214, you're looking at predominantly African American minority neighborhoods. And for a long time, let's look at even the gentrification, and let's just call it what it is. Some of the white affluence in the city of Buffalo, they didn't really care about these neighborhoods.
That's right.
Now, long before, those neighborhoods were, I'm not going to say infested, but were a little bit more diverse.
For sure.
But now it's more separated. We have to, in the Racial Equity Roundtable, in just life itself, by just being Americans, because that's who we are, we need to help one another. And these, I'm not going to even say impoverished, but neglected communities.
Definitely neglected.
It needs to have the help that's coming back now in order to raise up. If I rise up, I should be able to help you rise up.
Well, and it's a bigger thing too, because one of the central issues in all of this is the communication disconnect is so drastic. Often we find white majority neighborhoods or white majority leaders coming to minority leaders and saying, "How can I help?"
Well, no, they're saying this is what we want to do in your community.
They
don't engage in the conversation.
I'm even talking.
What can we do?
Right. The enlightened people say, "How can I help?"
Mm-hmm.
And even that, I am learning. Part of it is, again, we haven't even begun to listen to what's wrong. So first, the whole notion that we start with a massive difference in outcomes. One side of Main Street, other side of Main Street, huge differential. Right? Just down the center of Buffalo. And then the understanding that, hey, wait a second, we know how to make successful communities. So why would we ask the community leaders when it's so clear that what we need to do is we need to listen to what's wrong and then say, oh, our society has in fact addressed these ills. We know how to address nutritional deficiencies. We know how to address lack of access to medical care. We know how to address these things. And instead of saying, here, take it, we to some extent need to say, hey, wait a second, let's figure out how people can access that, and that requires a listening because there's so little trust.
Not only little trust, but there's some cultural divides because we weren't raised the same. Our culture, one culture has been used to doing it this way, and another culture has been used to doing it this way. So when you come in, you can't tell them they're wrong. You need to show them what we can do or what areas that in your diet per se.
Mm-hmm.
What areas are causing more deficiencies?
Right.
Okay. And then in what areas you may even learn may be better for you as well. So you need to have that dialogue.
And the mutual learning is really the key here. The understanding that, and maybe we should use a model that we understand intrinsically, that over the last 50 years, we have begun to realize that medicine was designed for men.
Yeah.
Right. And that suddenly we needed to stop treating women as divergent from a masculine norm and start coming up with answers for women's health that were different than answers for men's health, and create expertise in women as also normal. And that required the entire medical profession to shift its understanding of who was normal. And expand that. And to a certain extent, we need to do the same in our interethnic, also, at this point, the difference between socioeconomics is huge because socioeconomic culture for people with plenty and people without plenty is drastically different. We are looking at outcomes for somebody who has struggled with poverty, and the trauma associated with poverty are so drastically lower on so many levels, facing health risks throughout their lives because of suffering trauma, that people who didn't have to face neglect of any sort. And we're not talking about people who were abused. We're not talking about people who were beat up. We're talking merely having to struggle with neglect. Less food, less nutrition, less health care, all those things, and the understanding of having to scramble for it all changes a person's biology. Not just their psychology, but a person's biology.
But it also makes some people more resilient to listen to those who feel that they know what's best for them. My grandmother and my mother, growing up in the South, they lived more off of the earth than anybody else. They had the roots that they would just mix up together to fix this, to heal this, to take care of that. Some of those home remedies are still valid today.
For sure.
Doctors are wondering how come this is when I gave you this particular medicine and it's still not working, but you tried something else and now tell me what it is. No, and people are so private in that. So we grew up, maybe we may have had less, but we knew how to make less stretch.
Right. So
that less became more. And then you may look at, or other people may look at it and say, wow, that's bad. But let me tell you something. When I know we have a little bit more time.
No, we got plenty of time.
Let me share this. One of the times, especially down south, when the African American communities, they did not have, because they were given the less and the less desirable. They were given slop pretty much.
Right.
One of the greatest delicacies that we have now, especially around Thanksgiving time, is chitterlings.
Right.
Now, down south, they threw those out because they did not think that they were good for anything. So when the African American community started taking them and eating them, they said now they're charging a lot more for them.
Look, we have the same thing in Jewish food, right? Eastern European Jewish food is the cheap food, right? So gefilte fish, which most people find disgusting, is a delicacy. Why? Well, in large part because it was the crappy fish.
Right.
And we had to figure out a way to make it last long and make it taste good. And this element of curiosity and wonder about each other, about people who are not like us, as opposed to judgment, is really at the core of both of our faith traditions.
Absolutely.
That I have to come to a person and say, I don't know, and how beautiful is that? That this person is in the image of the divine, which is a complicated idea, and I don't yet know what is divine about this person. I need to be intrigued about the journey. So for those of you just joining us, we've got plenty of time. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Freirish, here with Reverend Mark Blue. We are at Temple Beth Zion and at the Second Baptist Church in Lackawanna, and one of the projects that we're both working on is this Racial Equity Roundtable, which is a project of the Community Foundation of Greater Buffalo. And we have on our schedule for this coming winter the National Day of Racial Healing. So we've done this a number of times. We've done it at churches, we've done it at synagogues, we've done a lot of different National Day of Racial Healing. This year, we're going to be doing it at Elam, I believe, God willing.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. And I'm saying that right. Elam on the east side, right?
Yes, it is.
And huge space for a very important speaker. Richard Rothstein is a professor out at UC Berkeley, but he started looking at education differentials in segregation and ended up writing a book called The Color of Law, about the way in which our laws about residence are written entirely with racial segregation in mind from the early 1900s on. And it is truly the untold story of segregation in the North. not in the South. It's not Jim Crow. This is segregation in the North. One of the most powerful stories was the movement of a manufacturing plant from outside Sacramento to the southern part of the Bay Area in California, and how the workers who worked in that plant were not allowed to live near it. They were zoned out of where the plant moved, but they wanted to keep their jobs. So they they basically bought a van together so that they could all drive more than 2 hours in each direction in order to keep their jobs. But that meant, of course, that they stayed in their community, which didn't have the factory anymore. And that factory went from a working class, middle class community to a poor community in the suburbs, not actually outside Sacramento. It's outside San Francisco. And so their kids ended up with none of the benefits of kids who lived near where the factory ended up. And this is only the beginning of the ways in which communities redlined and kept African Americans out of communities that they had moved into. This particular community was a community filled by people who were fleeing the South through the Great Migration, who had ended up serving our country either as factory workers or as soldiers during World War II, and they were entirely passed over in the 1950 boom years. So that instead of building homes, owning homes, getting mortgages, and the GI Bill didn't, in fact, cover African Americans. So African Americans were excluded from the mortgage advantages and even some of the education advantages in the GI Bill. We have an official racism in our government that we haven't gotten rid of. So this is what Richard Rothstein is going to come and talk to us about. And we're talking about, first of all, gathering together on Wednesday, January 15th at Elam that evening, and we hope everybody will join us to hear Professor Rothstein speak. We also want to figure out a way to turn his lesson, his ideas into action, because that's what we've been talking about today.
Absolutely. And we're going to be inviting everyone to come and be a part of that. I'm so intrigued about it and so ready for it. Even my Bible study class, we are going to make sure that they're there.
That's great.
It's very important. This is a very big event. Racial healing is life healing. And we need to know that we live here together. So we need to learn how to live together.
We do. And one of the things that intrigued me, so Reverend Lee Miller, he's the Reverend at Holy Trinity Lutheran here in downtown Buffalo. He said in our meeting the other day that often we skip a couple of steps in this healing process. And I am intrigued and motivated by the idea that we need to do more than just recognize there's a problem, and more than just move to a solution, that we're skipping in between that a confession. We're skipping the idea, and this is powerful words for me, because from the Jewish tradition, we spend a whole season working on apologies. We're very serious about the repentance process. But the truth of the matter is, if I've done something wrong, I need to say I did something wrong. I need to confess what it was that I did wrong to the person I've wronged. And then I need to ask, going back to this communication piece here, what is it that I can do to make it better? I don't get to suggest the solution. If I am the aggressor, if I am the person who's done something wrong. And we haven't done a good job confessing. So Reverend Blue and I are exploring the idea of what it would mean for our communities to come together, and maybe have some of us who have, again, I don't think, wronged Reverend Blue personally. Not that I know of. Have I?
I haven't foreseen anything in the last 5 minutes.
So what would it be for me to lead our Jewish community, our Temple Beth Zion community, in some way, shape, or form, confessing to having taken advantage of a system that benefited us at the detriment of the African American community?
That's going to require deep soul searching, because a lot of people feel that white privilege is an area that you just learn and you just adapt to without even thinking about how it's affecting others. So that's going to take some deep soul searching for individuals, not just individuals, but even government.
For sure.
Because government, the banking, the financial institutions, those individuals who are running those corporations, they need to really think about that same question of, what did I do? What part did I play? And it's going to require some deep soul searching. And that'll be a great move.
Well, we're going to work on that, because I feel very strongly that until we have that first confessional piece, that piece that I have in fact participated in something that has done others wrong, we may not get anywhere, because we need to change the system, and the system changes with our hearts first.
Absolutely.
And with that, we're going to close. We're going to wish everybody a very, very blessed Sunday. And Reverend Blue, thank you so much for joining us here for Crossroads. Crossroads is a production of the Network of Religious Communities and Town Square Media. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.